I'm really fired up this morning after a viewer sent me a video on X yesterday that almost made me explode. I wasn't sure if I should really make this video this morning. Why? I'll explain that to you in a moment. You've probably already heard that they're now likely going to tackle reforms, just like Barbel Boss said. They told me, well, coffee machines won't need tough inspections anymore. Or Ukraine is now definitely supposed to join the EU, and then again, maybe not. We'll just give you 6 billion euros. These things, they were all still like, well, I have to say, I could just put them aside. But this video, it's so explosive, and by now they gave themselves away yesterday. 40% of all people in the East vote for the AfD, and we're going to take a look at that today. How I can reveal, yes, poll fraud or something that's not really a poll today. If you want to support this channel, I would really appreciate a like, subscription, and hype. And we're going into the first clip, which really got me extremely worked up.
Attention, in some cases there might also be targeted missionary work behind it. One of their main goals is to convince other people of their faith. Some of these groups that the soccer players cooperate with spread an ultra-conservative worldview.
So, and now a question. By the way, I've researched this and I know the numbers, yes, and then I'll tell you in a moment what the Taz wrote about it and why I'm so worked up. How many times in your life have you stood at a crossroads and thought, man, nothing helps anymore, I'm going to pray to God now, and at some point things did get better, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this video. No, I'm not strictly religious, and I don't believe in the church either. But how many times, have you done that in your life? You can write it down or not. For me, it's been countless times when I was at a crossroads. And now Taz comes around the corner with this report. And I'm reading this out because otherwise I'll forget everything. Jesus gets a red card. The German national player Felix Nemtscher parades his faith around like a monstrance. Behind it stands a dark view of humanity. Yes, Christians are a dark view of humanity. Dear Taz, I hope you simply go bankrupt and someday you will be held accountable for something like this. That ruined my day this morning? Not again. Not because I'm strictly religious, but simply because when I couldn't go on anymore, I prayed to God and eventually things got better. And that's why I'm still here, just by the way. Yeah, but maybe you'll have the courage to write down below that you've also secretly prayed to God before, or that you've never done it.
What gives all of us reason for hope is the wording of
This is this graphic here. So 40% of all Germans in East Germany vote for the AfD. And now this thing is blowing people's minds. That means we're probably not even at 45% in Saxony-Anhalt anymore, but we've probably already broken the 50% mark there. I'll do the math right now. GMS has also published something else. And now things are getting extremely explosive here in Germany. They can carry out the election. Polls can no longer be manipulated or anything like that. You just saw 40 in Germany. In East Germany, people are already ready to vote for the AfD, even though Berlin is already included. And I wonder, why aren't there any new election polls, and why are the numbers at 40 when Berlin only has 17 and is included as the smallest voter group? Where are the others? Theoretically, it's not possible that if in some federal states, let's say, the voter turnout or the vote is only at 35, that someone has to have 50 or everyone. Across the board, there should be at least 40. Do you understand the logic behind it?
In everything related to domestic politics, because his CDU-CSU bloc hasn't been doing this badly for almost 5 years. In a new YouGov poll, the CDU-CSU is only at 20%. According to the poll, the CDU-CSU is only at 20%.
So, and now let's take a look at this, how you're being taken for a fool again. The INSA poll makes it very clear that 40% of all East Germans will vote for the AfD in the polls. That means we should have an average of about 40% in the strongest federal states. If we have deviations here in the strongest federal states by voters, then in the somewhat weaker federal states, of course, it has to be well over 40%, and I've sorted them up here. From those with the most voters down to Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, which has the fewest voters. We start in Saxony. Saxony has 42%. we're slightly above the average. That means there can't be major deviations in Brandenburg and Berlin. Otherwise, we'd have to make up for them from the other federal states. And I can also prove that mathematically. If you're interested, feel free to write it in the comments below. I calculated that in painstaking detail and noticed that but more on that in a moment. We have Berlin with only 18% of all voters. The state with the second largest number of voters. In Brandenburg, it's only 4, or is it just 34%? I always use the latest polls. In Saxony-Anhalt, we're at 42%. That means Berlin and Brandenburg should easily handle those 2%. And we'd be at around 37, 38, 39%. But if we were at 45 to 47%, like I said in my last video, then the whole thing would look a little different. Because then you could extrapolate that to Brandenburg and Berlin. But that would only be the case if Thuringia and also Mecklenburg-Western Pomerania together were now at 40%. Now we have 39% in Thuringia. That means there are still some votes missing here. And in Mecklenburg-Western Pomerania, 36%. Haseloff, he even goes on Lanz and says, yes, but the AfD, they're so evil and they determine politics everywhere and ruin it because we've been inactive for years. Oh, right, he didn't say that. That's just what he meant after Lanz asked him about it. And then the polling companies also try to take us for fools and really aren't willing to work out a simple proportion. Now let me ask you, no matter how good you are at math, is it possible when a single federal state, which is in the middle in terms of the number of voters, is at 42%, and another major federal state is at 41%? And the second strongest, only 18%, can that actually result in an average of 40% of all voters? Never. It's much, much worse. And why isn't the whole thing published? Oh, just like with the CSU in Bavaria, where no election polls are conducted. Because then people would see that this German government not only has a serious problem, but has in fact failed. Because the next reforms that are supposed to come now, brace yourselves, Bärbel Boss said yesterday, I'm not going to show it to you. You'll get a stomachache again. I know it for sure. We're supposed to just remove the TÜV seal from coffee machines because that would supposedly be a relief for the citizens. We buy a new coffee machine every week. Exactly, and we don't need to worry about it blowing up or anything.
Let's talk about a major sticking point in the upcoming negotiations, and that's the economy, specifically agriculture. Because with EU accession, Ukraine would of course be an agricultural giant. Thank you very much.
And it would ruin the already struggling agriculture here in Germany even more than Mercosur, among other things. That's becoming clear now. By the way, there was already an urgent letter from the startup companies here in Germany who made it clear to me again in March that we need reforms not in 1, 2, or 3 months. We need them now. We need them immediately. We need relief, otherwise this delicate little plant that he has watered or whatever will be bent over, destroyed. The startups here in Germany are facing ruin. Many have already filed for bankruptcy. By the way, there was another traditional manufacturer with 2,800 employees that went bankrupt. Boom, the next 2,800 are gone because the heavy tanker can't turn around and would rather, well, do politics for Ukraine or something like that. How do you actually feel when you hear in the morning that everything is being done for Ukraine again and nothing for traditional German companies? There's no time. He's not even the foreign policy chancellor anymore, and as Ulrich Jürgens says, he's standing before the ruins of his life. And I really think by now, just let this chancellor do his job for another year or two, and then we won't have to worry about anything in Germany anymore. Then we'll have the first party in Germany to break the 50% mark again, and then someone can govern alone again, and then we can set the election agenda just like that. And then they can implement them exactly as stated in a way that actually helps people here, even if things get very nationalistic here. But I think Germany needs that again. Especially because of Christianity, I believe people shouldn't be persecuted for praying. And if they're also people of color and play for our national soccer team and don't make an ISIS sign, then I think that's a wonderful sign to all the people who have immigrated here who simply support Germany. Or were there really any people here in Germany who were against Miroslav Klose? Not me. I celebrated with these people. I was excited. Sadly, Messi matched his record yesterday.